Call to order the city council meeting of Tuesday, October 4th, 2022. Need an approval of the agenda.
I don't think we're there yet, Mike.
Well,
That's how we open every meeting.
I know, but we haven't done the agenda yet. I just want to get the vote.
oh, okay, we have a request to change the agenda, and I've actually requested some of that. So you're right.
Okay.
Before we call
Mike.
for approval of the agenda, we have a couple of corrections. I believe one is the deletion of the TSP public hearing for consideration tonight. And the other was, help me with that, Bruce.
It had to do with how we were going to move forward on City Hall, because City Hall is a little different than Cannabis Elementary.
Right, we were concerned, timing is essence here, and we wanted to go ahead and move that up to tonight's agenda.
But we want to, I'm recommending now that we move it maybe to the workshop so we can have 5 there.
We can do that, but we still need to, if it's going to be discussed here at the city council meeting on the agenda and we're moving it, seems to me we still have to say we've made that decision to move it. But I don't know, you correct me if I'm wrong on that, Ashley.
You're muted, Ashley.
The motion is to amend the agenda for this evening to remove an item.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and do that.
I'm just trying to get control of what here.
You're trying to wrest control from me.
Yes, but control is an illusion, so.
Yeah, good luck.
Well,
right.
we can still move the city hall discussions to the next work session. I guess we don't need to make that decision at this point, but it will show up on the agenda for the work session.
Yes, and also there's been a change in plans from what we were talking about earlier regarding the TSP. And that is that we move forward with the public hearing portion tonight and continue the public hearing to the November meeting when we'll have the full council. So that'll be a recommendation.
Okay, it's a little different than I'd understood.
Yeah, you know, it is, Mike. There's a change.
Okay. So we have some amendments to the agenda. One is to change the discussion or the public hearing on the TSP to hear the public participation, public comments, but this council discussion will be at the next, I don't know if it'll be a special meeting or the next council meeting.
The November council meeting, and we'll be continuing the testimony.
So we'll still allow more testimony
Yes,
after today's.
yes. We want to make sure that everybody gets to speak and that the entire council hears what they have to say.
All right.
Okay, Mike, can I just take a minute and try to get somebody elected up here? So we can do the rest of the agenda?
I think we
have to agree on the amended, don't we have to agree on the amended agenda?
Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm called to order the meeting and approval of the agenda as amended.
So move.
I hear a
Second.
second. Okay,
Just
so
hang on just a second, Mike.
Yeah,
Bruce, are you comfortable with that?
yeah, no, I'm fine, as long as Ashley's fine. And then, but I think the next item should be selecting the.
That's fine. I'm just
Yeah.
about the amendment to the agenda. We talked about the TSP, but it also about the city
Yeah,
hall.
and we won't. I would prefer we just don't get into it tonight, but if we do, if it's on the agenda at this point, I will speak to it and say that we want to continue it for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No, this is pretty awkward trying to do this. Conduct a meeting with Zoom. So according to our charter, our bylaws, the three that are of you that are there can elect somebody to conduct the meeting tonight. So I guess open it up for discussion and see if we have a consensus on who could conduct the meeting.
Mike, this is Counselor Benefield, this is Ashley. I actually think that you can participate in that vote as well. So my recommendation is that we just nominate somebody and then take a vote and move forward with that person as the presiding officer.
I nominate Brandon.
I second.
I'm fine with that.
Perfect.
Okay, been moved and seconded to nominate Brandon to conduct tonight's city council meeting. And I guess we can take a vote.
Councilor McCarthy?
Yes.
Council President Benefield?
Yes,
Councilor Risley?
Yes.
Councilor O.
Yes.
Thank you.
okay, I will probably mute myself at this point so I don't interrupt with coughing.
Okay.
But I can
Right.
come back on if I hear something I want to address.
Sure.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Brandon.
All right, moving along, we have our consent agenda, approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Roll call, please. I guess we don't need that for that.
All in favor?
All in favor is fine.
Yes.
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 All right, I'll now open up public comment for anyone that's here, and then we'll get Zoom afterwards. Does anybody wish to comment?
My name is Randy Neal, P.O. Box 1092. A few weeks ago, the city proposed that the elementary school project be giving a parking requirement waiver and discussed a couple of different options to council to potentially consider after planning commission, et cetera. Instead of a waiver or a waiver with some soft scheduling guidelines, I'd like to have you think about a more formal mitigation option. The elementary school project will definitely have some kind of summer traffic input. It will either draw more visitors to Cannon Beach or cause those who are in Cannon Beach to stay longer, or take tourist time away from visiting other businesses to visit that museum or whatever. So basically, maybe the best mitigation that the city could do is to offer a robust shuttle trolley service, maybe even an EV version, one that runs summer middays on a regular 15-minute cycle, one that even the residents would use for farmers market, et cetera. Unfortunately, the past attempts at a shuttle have fallen short, and this year we didn't even have one. Shuttle service was the #1 suggested option promoted by the TSP survey participants, and I've heard many good ideas. It's already in the TSP. It's basically already funded or half funded, but it has very little specifics. We know our existing parking code is inappropriate. We don't want more parking like the pot shop downtown. We know that we'll revise the code. Most likely it'll involve some type of mitigation for any new business development in downtown. And it would be really nice for the city to be a leader in this direction, as opposed to being the first of many to ask for a waiver. Some of the options discussed in putting a limitation on scheduling, i.e. avoid summer events. First, this seems pretty soft and it's difficult to enforce. And second, it may put limitations on the management, nonprofit or manager of what he can do. And we expect that person probably to be self-funding, and we don't want it to fail. A shuttle would move people around to all of the Cannon Beach attractions more quickly, and it would encourage them to park once and only once. And it could be the first step in implementing TSP items. Let's go collect all the good ideas and get ready a shuttle program for next summer. And let's show how the city staff and the business owners and the citizens and the chamber could all work together towards implementing TSP activities.
Thank you, Randy.
Thanks, Randy.
Hi, Molly Champion, P.O. Box 614. And I'm here to talk about the TSP.
We will have public testimony for that separately, if that makes.
Separately.
And this would be part of the hearing right now.
So I can't do this now.
We can do it in a few minutes when we have start our public hearing.
Okay. So I just not considered a public comment then.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
it's the next item, Molly.
Can I go sit down?
Yeah, feel free.
I'm glad you're not making me leave.
Never.
Does anyone else have public comment?
Well, you go first, okay?
I don't know how to pronounce the mushroom name, so is this the time to speak about that?
Sure.
I'm against it.
Okay.
I grew up, Marlene Laws.
Yes, you're good.
The P.O. Box 945. I grew up in Cannon Beach. We were a little community of wholesome things. I would like to keep Cannon Beach wholesome. I was against the pot shops, and I'm against this.
Thank you.
I'm Debatia, P.O. Box 1426, Cannon Beach. First of all, I want to announce that we have a new reporter for the Cannon Beach Gazette. His name's Will, and with a journalism degree to help be a buddy to me and teach me too. I'm excited to learn from him. And he's from Nashville. And do you want to say anything else about yourself?
Excited to be here and help cover the community and hoping for a good meeting tonight.
Can I ask a question? Are you just covering for the Gazette or do you have?
With the Headline Herald, the North County Citizen and the Gazette.
And so are you splitting your time between the Gazette and like Tillamook Herald or? I thought, okay. So you're not covering full time then or for Cannon Beach?
I'll be covering the whole, about all three of those. Got a large purview.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, because it is a lot when you start reading the TSP plan. It's like, so I need help with that. And I'm more focused to human interest and elk and things like that. So I wanted to make an announcement that the Cannon Beach Gazette and the Chamber of Commerce have decided to cancel the election forum scheduled for October 16th due to another group called Vote Smart Cannon Beach, which I don't know anything about. Anyway, decided to cancel this due to another group to hold candidates forum 3 days prior to ours, which is confusing and redundant. And it didn't make sense to pay the Coaster Theater for 2 events when they're so close together. So the intent of the Cannon Beach Gazette and the Chamber of Commerce was to sponsor the forum to serve the community and give all residents an opportunity to get to know the candidates, which was what the goal was. And the chamber really wanted to get somebody from the outside so it wasn't a partisan situation. With a couple of emails, groups hosting forums and community group already doing a live forum along with the printed questions and the answers in this week's Gazette, there's no need to host another event when there's supposed to be another event, which we don't know about. The group did not consult with either the Gazette or the Chamber, and we hope their forum can serve the community in a balanced way and do what is best for Cannon Beach. I wanted to read something that kind of said it well. Somebody commented, when our chamber and our local newspaper have announced an event in our local auditorium and they back down, we have a serious issue. So I think what I would like to bring up is I would like to see people working together, and I'm very disappointed that we weren't contacted so we could all work together to the same goal. I mean, really, it's for the community. So I don't know where this is coming from, and to schedule it 3 days prior to ours is kind of like a action, I think, and I don't know who's involved in that. We have, emails coming in with a lot of not factual information to city and other residents, and the fact checking is something I try to keep up with really diligently, and it's a lot of studying. And there's a lot of misinformation being spread around, and it's really hard to have a community that's united when you have that. Then you got Tim Ramey's group was developed and concerned over building codes, and he's doing what he thinks is best. So that's another group. And now there's this group and called Vote Smart. And we've reached out to them. I've reached out all day long to them, and so far no one has responded. And our city manager and city staff are constantly being attacked, and this affects the morale, and people are leaving, like 2 assistants left, and who knows who's next. And the Chamber of Commerce and Cannon Beach Gazette scheduled the coaster to serve the community, and did not look like anyone else was going to organize one. So we did this a few weeks back, and now this group steps in, and the coaster is $800. So, if we do them 3 days apart, it's expensive. And so why do 2 events? And it seems like it's working against the newspaper and the chamber. And we're trying to be of goodwill and paying for it and sponsoring it. So they don't also want to step into a hornet's nest, so we decided to step out. So what is wrong with this picture is my question. And it doesn't feel neighborly to me, or like a community that works together for the greater good. And I feel really sad about that, because I come from some very solid neighborhoods, and it just feels like everybody's fractured and not coming together, and attacking one another. And I've had 2 people call the Gazette, try to attack me and I've been doing a really good job, and I get along with Joe really well, so there's no problem there. But it's just a lot of attacking going on, and it's not kind. So I'd like to see that stop, and I hope that the people who are being elected can be successful at that. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Deb. Would anyone else like to speak?
Deanna Polly Hammond, P.O. Box 142. I would like to just briefly address what Deb talked about. And it is unfortunate that the Gazette canceled their forum. The questions that we were asked from the Gazette were designed specifically by one person in Cannon Beach. There were half of us answered those questions to that person directly. The other half chose not to. I was one of the people that chose not to answer those questions. In the email, it stated very specifically that that person had their biases and they were going to stand behind them. So I think that that gives a good indication of why some of us would feel that that person was not a neutral party. That person sits on a committee, a very important committee within the city. And so he has said nasty things about Robin, about me, about Lori. And I think that there is a lot of divisiveness. I will agree with Deb on that. I hope that we can all learn to work better together. I do believe that I think a lot of the divisiveness came out throughout the food tax process. Not blaming it on that, there are other things. But when you have a subgroup that, and the Vote Cannon Beach, vote, I don't know, whatever that group is that's holding the forum on the 13th. They did a forum back in 2020, maybe, or 2018. They've
I think
done
it was
one
18.
before. Pardon me? 2018. So they have done one before. If they try and get a group of neutral people. I am one of the people that called Joe when the questions were at the Gazette, when the questions were exactly the same as what was written by this other party, because I was concerned. Is there, even though in journalism, as Nancy well knows, you have to kind of remain neutral when you're reporting something. And Joe assured me that that would absolutely be the case. And so I responded to the request. So there are some things, some underlying things that really kind of bring up some ethics with someone who sits on a committee within the city. But is it good that we're having this on the 13th? I don't know. Who knows about it? It was in the paper that it was on the 16th. So I would have gone to both. I agree. There's some redundancy to do that. So how many people are going to show up on the 13th? No, we don't know. It's unfortunate that it came down to this, but there is one very specific key holder in this. And I think that the questions should be posed in that direction. So I thank you guys for listening to what I had to say. And I hope that that helps bring a little more clarity. We got one side and then my version, I've talked with other candidates, and those of us who didn't answer were kind of in agreement on the same thing. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jan?
I'm Jan Seibert Ormond, PO Box 778 Cannon Beach. I had not planned to speak on this, but since it's come up, I guess it's time to just say I'm very concerned about what is happening in our town in regard to this person who has not been named. It's Tim Ramey, and I'm concerned that what I heard was, and I didn't get one of these myself, that he had sent out hundreds of requests or whatever cards that suggested people who I think had second homes would change their place of voting so that they could vote here. And I've been talking to a few people to see if this was legal. And I was told by someone who does have a second home here that it is not legal unless you vote in your primary place of residence. So you have to live here more than 50% of the time. And I have not taken the time yet to double check this, but this is what I was told. Along with this nastiness of attacking people on this email thing, the candidates, some of the candidates, I find this is really concerning as a person who's lived here for almost 35 years. I have never seen the like of this, and I've seen a lot. So I just guess I'm just very concerned about what's happening in our community, and that someone is, I don't know, it just feels like this doesn't seem legal, or as Deb said, and I think Deb, has often said she likes what Tim Ramey's doing. So it's hard for me to understand because I've only seen this not kind behavior toward a lot of people who are caring about our community and trying to really do our best to support our community in the best way we know how. So anyway, just getting it out there a little bit in the open. I have nothing against Tim Ramey. Personally, I'm just concerned about what he is doing in our election. And also just not being kind. I'm not the kindest person either. I'm not saying I am, but I hope we can all try to be kind and also not interfere in the process of our elections, which are extremely important here and everywhere. So thank you.
Can I clear up one fact?
Sure, Deb.
So the Gazette, Tim Ramey's questions, I'm gonna let Tim Ramey talk for himself because I'm not gonna talk for Tim Ramey. And I haven't, what he says and stuff, I have no control over. So, the Gazette used his questions because they're the regular questions, food tax, ADUs, so we didn't think, I don't think Joe thought we needed to do new questions, which could, it's all the same questions everybody's gonna ask. That's the deal. I mean, it's all the issues that we're facing. So that's why he did that. I mean, why Joe did that. We thought, why ask again the same questions, and everybody have to go back and answer them. But in retrospect, we might have done that differently. So I'm sorry, that we did that. And but he did. Nobody knew. It was the questions. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Right. Anyone else in the room? Rusty, is there anyone with their hand up? I don't see anyone right now. All right. I'm going to close the public comment and move on to our first agenda item of the Cannon Beach Transportation System Plan adoption. All right, Jeff Adams, on behalf of the City of Cannon Beach, seeks the adoption of the Cannon Beach Transportation System Plan as supporting material to the Cannon Beach Comprehensive Plan. The TSP is in accordance with Oregon Revised Statutes, OAR 660, Division 12, Transportation Planning Rule, which implements statewide Planning Goal 12. The request will be reviewed against the criteria of the Cannon Beach Comprehensive Plan and Municipal Code, Section 17.86.070.a, Amendments Criteria. Does anyone object to the jurisdiction of the City Council to hear this application at this time? And I'm going to continue with this, but is it necessary to ask for the biases to be declared since we're not going to vote on it this evening? Ashley's shaking her head yes. Okay, I will do so. Thank you. Does any counselor believe he or she has a bias, personal bias to declare? Does any counselor believe he or she has a conflict of interest? Has any counselor had any ex parte contacts or made a site visit? And
Live in Canada.
I know.
Yeah. Is there any additional correspondence, Jennifer?
I did not receive any.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, the staff report, please.
Yes, I've been through this many times in the work session last month, and so I'll just briefly touch on the main things. This is the Cannon Beach 2022. It began back in 2019, and actually I have to give it to Mark Barnes, a planner before me. He started it back in 2015, I believe, is when he first started applying for this TSP through the TGM program, the Transportation Growth Management program with ODOT. We did receive it back in 2019, and I stated last time, and I'll state again, the objectives when we wrote the application. Cannon Beach TSP will be built along a spectrum of planning scenarios, while the project's objectives serve a continuum of interrelated purposes. One, identify, map, and assess existing transportation, transit, mobility, and parking facilities. Two, prepare the city for emergent events and their potential impacts. Three, encourage innovative solutions to the unique challenges of a tourist-dependent community. Four, create channels for continued community engagement and transportation planning. Five, build resilient systems that can better cope and respond to the fluctuations of global and regional markets for emergent and impending events. And so we set out to do a process. We had Parametrics as our consultant on this, and they've done a great job with working with them through this. Also, Michael Duncan from ODOT, who's been instrumental in moving this forward, and then a great technical advisory committee that worked throughout, and then worked through all of the public outreach. And then we ended up through that public outreach getting community engagement in the four main goals for the TSP, which were: 1, preserve Cannon Beach coastal village. 2, balance the needs of different transportation system users throughout the community. 3, enhance safety and emergency preparedness. And 4, foster a sustainable transportation system. And I just want to thank everyone who's been a part of this, who stays a part of it. You can tell our citizens are passionate about everything they do. It doesn't surprise me that during election season, things get a little contentious. I mean, we're a passionate group of people, and I appreciate Randy still coming out and giving his advice. He gave in the public comment a great idea, something, and he mentioned the TSP, and yes, it's in the TSP. And, the reason that fell by the wayside, or the trolley fell by the wayside during the COVID, is just like one of our truly passionate technical advisory committee members, Kathy, said from Sunset, is they just couldn't get the staff. It comes back to housing. It comes back to all those interrelated things. And that's the way we will approach this project from the very beginning, that this is just part of the interconnectedness with land use, transportation, housing. All these things are related. And one thing that was vitally missing when we started this project was a transportation system plan. We are the only jurisdiction in the Clatsop County, and I would say in Tillamook County, that does not have a transportation plan. And so when you go and you try to get improvements, it's much better to have that in place to help you compete to get that kind of funding. And so that's another big key that this is it's a point to leverage us for future transportation improvements and systems. And I appreciate everyone staying involved in this. I appreciate those that have participated throughout, and I hope they will stay involved, because that's our next step. Once this is improved or adopted, then the next step is to actually start those projects, start prioritizing through workshops with you guys, Planning Commission and others, on what's our next steps and what we want to do. So I just want to say thanks for everyone to getting us to this point. And if you have any questions or anything along the way, feel free to, let me know if I can help. The other thing is, I think it was Bruce had said that possibly, we want to hear the public hearing because we had notice for it. And so I hated to see that, canceled and then pushed off to next month. If people have already been noticed of it and they wanted to give their public comment, we might as well take that. Doesn't mean you guys have to decide tonight. You can always continue it to the next month. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Jeff.
Jeff, on that particular comment, are we planning to continue, keep it open for public testimony throughout October? And then are we talking about discussing it then in the first meeting of November?
I don't see why you wouldn't, if you're going to go ahead and continue to make the decision next one, there's no reason. It's not like, there's quasi judicials where you got 777 or something. You need to get that in so you can review all the materials. I don't think that that's necessary.
Okay.
Right. I'm ready to open up the public testimony. The request will be reviewed against the criteria of the municipal code, section 17.86.070.a, amendments criteria. The pertinent criteria to be considered are noted in the staff reports. Testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward those criteria or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or municipal code, which the person testifying believes to apply to the decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal based on that issue. Prior to the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional testimony, arguments, or evidence regarding the application. City Council shall grant such requests by continuing the public hearing or leaving the record open for additional written testimony, argument, or evidence. Persons who testify shall first receive recognition from the mayor, state their full name and mailing address, and if appearing in a representative capacity, identify who they represent. And I just want to repeat that we are going to be holding the testimony open. We won't be voting this evening, so we're happy to hear anything that you'd have to say. Is there a presentation by the applicant? Which I suppose would be us. That's what I think. Are there presentations by proponents? Are there presentations by opponents? Go ahead, Lolly.
Thank you, Brandon. Holly Champion and P.O. Box. That's what game. Thank you. I start out with this incorrect now because you're not going for approval, but tonight you're deciding, and I will continue to decide. I guess I will change that on. I was a member of the TFP Advisory Committee along with so many others. I have also engaged in public input. The intent of ODOT requesting every city have a TSP plan is a necessary one. We need a way to manage incoming vehicles and parking they will expect. I wish the input available from the public and advisory committees were more representative of this plan. A key element missing in the TSP is a starting point. What are the priorities to make sure the most pressing problems will get addressed first? Let's identify the highest priority items. Once we will know we have a good result on early steps, we can move to a next phase. We cannot address traffic control first without understanding how to plan for parking and traffic flow. All the key elements and all are integrated in each other and the whole. In other words, I don't see how we can't start with just across the board, but without starting with one to see how it's going to work, because it will eventually affect the other issues coming behind it, depending on the category that you want to start with. We cannot address traffic control without, please, one step at a time, be cost effective, continue with public and business input. Why pass a plan with missing priorities and uncertain scope and range of costs? I have 3 questions I hope you will consider before moving to approve. 1, if you do pass the entire TSP package as presented, can you inform residents how you will decide which of the over 100 pages of suggested ideas you will act upon first, and how will the public and business support be collected and incorporated? 2, do you have an acceptable cost range for the many TSP suggestions listed? Which of the items could you see being funded not by grant dollars, but by our property tax dollars? 3, can you identify 3 projects you would recommend implementing first towards our goal of reducing congestion and improving parking utilization? We've yet to discuss parking time limits, paid parking, RV parking downtown, and traffic patterns. It's been talked about publicly, but there's no real format brought out in the TSP plan, except for the traffic patterns. So I guess, again, my questions are, I would like to see before you pass, to at least decide a starting point and also have a cost relationship to that, because I understand part of it will be received through grants, but also the rest of the balance will fall upon us, the resident. I have a copy of that, gentlemen. But I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lolly.
Randy Neal, P.O. Box 1092. I'd like to reserve my formal comments for the next meeting. I have provided like 10 pages and a couple of attachments. I really hope that this city council will read those, understand those between now and then. I think most of them are pretty self-evident of what kind of changes I'd like to see embedded. Actually, I'm a proponent of the TSP. I just think it needs some changes and some modifications. And the last one is, there is one element that I want you to really start thinking about. The TSP includes the evacuation tower. I know this has been talked about for many years. Jeff included pictures, and every time it got presented, the public puked on it. Pictures disappeared. Last month, you got a different view of a different picture, which is the $60 million Newport, NOAA, Oregon State. And it's like, that either should be a really nice to have embedded someplace way down in the details. It doesn't really deserve a line item. And if you really think it should deserve a line item, you should also consider, the recommendations or inputs from citizens that says, go build a parking, tower and put that on the top of that, because I don't know what else you would do besides that. So the rest of it are in my inputs. I'll talk to that the next time. Thanks.
Thank you. Please, Jim.
Jan Siebert Ormond, P.O. Box 778, Cannon Beach. I just want to, for tonight, repeat mantra that I've been trying to say during this whole TSP process, which is we don't need more parking. We need less people in our peak season. So if we could just try to hold that thought while we're working with this TSP process, I would be really grateful. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Like we said, this will be held over until November's meeting. So you'll have another opportunity between now and then to certainly submit testimony if you'd like, but we'll be hearing it again. So if there isn't anybody else, that I'll give a last call. All right. I'm not going to close the public hearing, but we'll have to move to the next agenda item. Sorry, bear with me. The consideration of ordinance 2206 for the purpose of adding municipal code chapter 5.22 regarding psilocybin services. Jeff, do you have a staff report?
Yes. Psilocybin, which I can't say either, is.
I think you did just fine.
Was brought to us by ballot measure 109, known as the Oregon Psilocybin Service Act, codified as ORS 475A, and it allows for the manufacture, delivery, and administration of psilocybin or mushrooms at licensed facilities. And the Oregon Health Authority has begun the rulemaking process to implement Measure 109 and will begin accepting applications for psilocybin licenses in January 2023. And this means local governments need to begin thinking about whether and to what extent they want to impose regulations on these types of facilities. And so really that boiled down to three options. One, impose prohibitions. Really take it to the ballot and say we don't want these facilities within our city limits, or we want to have a a little freeze on them until we decide on what to do. Option 2 was to impose time, place, and manner restrictions on such facilities under the development code, which is what we did, similar to the marijuana ordinance came through. And then option 3 is to take no action, let the state law apply as written. And under the law, applicants for licenses must still obtain a land use compatibility statement from the city stating that the proposed facility is consistent with the local government's comprehensive plan and land use regulations, regardless of which way we went. And so you asked me to draft up an ordinance, or the staff to draft up ordinance, and we brought back one before you tonight, which is very similar to our mushroom ordinance, because what it allows will be really the service facilities, or where more of the retail, where someone can come in and do the almost like therapy there, and in a C1 district. And that's C1 districts in our community are downtown area, midtown area, and the Tolobana area. In the commercial districts. And then the C2 district would be the only area, and that's over by the RV park. And that is the only area that would be part of the more production side of things and the laboratory side of things. And then hours of operation, the appearance would be handled by the design review board, and everything else kind of according our DRB processes on that. And so that's what's in the ordinances. We've also given you the map of the 1,000-foot buffer around the academy to show you kind of the distance for that. Doesn't really affect any of the commercial zones. Any questions or?
So you say that the 1,000-foot buffer doesn't affect any of the commercial zones? It sure looks huge to me on the map.
Yeah.
But it doesn't affect any of them, huh?
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions of Jeff? All right. We have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
All right, Mike.
I move to approve ordinance 22-06, an ordinance for the purpose of adding municipal code chapter 5.22 regarding psilocybin services.
This one will be a motion to approve the first reading.
Okay. Mike, are you willing to change your amendment?
Refresh my memory. Amendment for what?
To approve Jen saying a first reading of the ordinance?
Okay, so there was nobody opposing, so I move to approve ordinance, the first reading of ordinance 22-06, an ordinance for the purpose of adding municipal code chapter 5.22 regarding psilocybin services.
A second.
All right, discussion?
Well, when you're talking about this, I'm more in favor of the therapy part than the manufacturing part. I would like to see that not be here in town. So I guess I have to say I can't agree to that.
Okay.
Is it possible to separate the two legally, or do we have to accept both of them?
So can I ask a clarifying question of Councilor Risley?
Certainly, Ashley.
So the decision whether or not the city was going to prohibit the facilities was made, I believe, back in July. And if the city was going to prohibit either type of facility, that would have to be referred to voters.
And I
city decided-
did say that at that time. That was
Okay.
how I felt.
Okay, so that it ended up not getting referred to voters. So the city's
Right.
options are right now are to do time, place, and manner, but the city cannot implement time, place, and manner restrictions that would have the effect of prohibiting any of the facilities. So just to clarify, and I forgot it, you did not vote for that back in July. However, it did pass. So the city must allow those types of facilities to come into town.
Both the manufacturing and the service facility. Okay.
Right.
And I can still vote against it.
Definitely. I just wanted to clarify.
All right, any further discussion? All right, roll call, please, Jennifer?
Counselor Risley,
No.
Counselor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy,
Yes.
Council President Benefield.
Yes,
Okay, so you'll need to read it by title.
For the purpose of adding municipal code, chapter 5.22 regarding psilocybin services, ordinance number 22-06. Is that correct? Are there any further motions that are needed?
So now we'll need a motion for the approve the second reading and adopt ordinance number 2206.
Would someone care to make a motion in that vein?
I guess I can do it. I move that we have a second reading of the resolution 20.
Ordinance.
Oh, excuse me. I'm on the wrong one here. Never mind. Second reading of the. Now here we are of ordinance 2706 for the
Sorry,
purpose
Nancy, it's 2206.
2206. Okay.
It would be the second reading and adopt.
Second reading of ordinance number 2206 for the purpose of adding municipal code chapter 5.22 regarding psilocybin services.
Roll call, please.
We need a second.
I need a
Oh,
second.
second, sorry.
I second it.
And seconded, roll call, please, Jennifer?
Council President Benefield,
Yes,
Councilor Risley,
No.
Councilor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy.
Yes.
All right, second reading for the purpose of adding municipal code, chapter 5.22 regarding psilocybin services, ordinance number 22-06. Right, Jennifer, is that
Yep, so now you can just announce that ordinance 2206 has been adopted and will become effective 30 days from adoption.
okay? As noted by Jennifer. Thank you. All right, consideration for resolution 22-27 for the purpose of creating a heritage tree program for the city of Cannon Beach Tree Program. Bruce, will you be presenting this?
Barb, do you want to take it? Barb's the, Barb Knopf is the chair of the Parks and Community Services.
This is an impromptu. Is it?
Welcome, Barb.
Thank you. So I guess I'm here to answer any questions after our presentation at the work session last month.
What do you see, if we adopt this, what do you see the committee doing from here on in terms of creating a program? How are you going to be doing research? Have you done research on other heritage programs and everything?
Months
Okay.
years doing research
Okay.
on it. And so what we would do is publicize the fact that the program exists and sit back and wait for nominations. I've had a lot of people say that they had a particular tree. Want to remind you that it is going to start out as one tree in the public, right?
Just one tree?
One tree for the first year.
Oh, wow.
And because there's expense involved in it, every tree that's nominated has to be reviewed by city staff and the city arborist. And so we just, we want to do it right. And so we're doing it a little slow to get it right the first time, and then we'll expand.
Do you have criteria? Have you listed criteria or published criteria for what a heritage
Yes.
tree is?
Yeah, I thought we went over that during the work session.
Very general.
Yeah, it is general. Yeah, but we looked at many different ways other cities do it. We do have one member on our committee who's from Hawaii, and so she brought everything from the Hawaiian Heritage Tree Program. We looked at Portland's, Lake Oswego, Wilsonville, quite a few. It is, we intended for it to be general at the very beginning, and then we will revamp as necessary.
I'm so excited about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, well, thank you, Barb.
Barb, I have a question for Barb. I think you may have answered it. And that is coming up with a budget. Now, you indicated there will be expenses with it. By doing it just one tree this year, will part of that be to help establish the budget? And will there be a budget for doing additional research that obviously you're going to have to do even before there's a tree being nominated?
Well, in terms of the research that the committee has done, that has all been volunteer, obviously, as a committee. But what the city staff reminds us of, and the city arborist, is that if we get 100 trees nominated, the arborist has to go and take a look at them with the city staff. And so we will probably have city staff do a little bit of initial screening and then ask the city arborist to come and do that. We really don't know what it's going to cost for the project. And so that's another reason why we're starting with one tree. And then by budget time for next year, we'll have a better understanding of what the program is going to cost.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Are we ready for a motion?
Yes.
I'm very sorry I didn't coordinate with you before. Apologize.
Hey, how'd I do?
Great.
I move to adopt resolution 22-27 for the purpose of creating a heritage tree program for the city of Cannon Beach tree program.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please, Jennifer?
Councilor McCarthy,
Yes.
Council President Benefit,
Unmute himself.
Yes.
Councilor Risley,
Yes.
Councilor Ogilvy.
Yes. All right, moving on. This is a consideration of Proclamation 22-11, proclaiming the month of October 2022 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the city of Cannon Beach. Jason, you have the staff report?
Thank you, sir. Before you is the Proclamation 2211. This is the Cannon Beach Police Department and the Harbor are requesting you adopt this proclamation to encourage all Cannon Beach residents to join in the observance of the Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Harbor responds, as well as law enforcement in Placer County, to thousands of calls regarding domestic violence and sexual assault, as well as stalking cases throughout the year. And the hardware provided services to assist Cannon Beach residents as well, which is very necessary. Some statistics for July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021 from Clatsop County and the surrounding areas. Crisis calls received were 2,128. Over half of those were in South County. 909 domestic violence, 135 sexual assault, and 85 were related to stalking. So clients sheltered 53. Most of those were in hotels, and 34 of those people were in South County. Regular participants in the prevention program is 108. So it's still very active, something that we're working on education. One thing that I've been working on that didn't come to fruition this year is putting together something in Cannon Beach just so we can have people come and learn more about it, and having victims assistance there as well to educate on what they do and hopefully get more volunteers for their program as well.
Well, when we attended the meeting the other night for the grants, I thought that the harbor did a wonderful job of explaining what they do.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, do we have a motion?
I move to adopt Proclamation 22-11, proclaiming October 2022 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Cannon Beach.
I'll second.
All right, discussion? Roll call, please, Jennifer?
Counselor Risley,
Yes.
Counselor Ogilvy,
Yeah.
Counselor McCarthy,
Yes.
Council President Bennett.
Yes.
Chief, would you like me to read the proclamation?
Sure. So for the purpose of proclaiming the month of October 2022 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, Proclamation number 22-11. Whereas the first Domestic Violence Month was observed in October 1987, the same year that saw the initiation of the first national domestic violence toll-free hotline, and in 1989, Congress designated October as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And whereas domestic violence is a pattern of assaultive and coercive behaviors, including physical, psychological, sexual, and economic abuse, social isolation, and stalking, that are used to maintain power and control over a person's intimate partner. And whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's dignity, safety, and basic human rights. And whereas domestic violence is the single largest cause of injury and homicide for women. And whereas children exposed to domestic violence experience terror, isolation, guilt, helplessness, and grief, and have a higher risk of engaging in criminal behavior and substance abuse and becoming victims of crime. And whereas domestic violence impacts the health and well-being of our community. And whereas it is incumbent on every citizen to play a role in preventing and ending domestic violence. Now therefore be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of Cannon Beach hereby adopts October 2022 to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Cannon Beach, and encourage all Cannon Beach residents to join in the observance. Passed by the Common Council of the City of Cannon Beach on the 4th of October 2022 by the roll call vote.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
All right, we have appointments of city committee and board members. First, we have a budget committee. We have 2 vacancies, but just 1 applicant. So anyone out there would like to join the budget committee, you're welcome to apply.
So Dorian was unable to make it for the meeting, but he did send in a letter earlier, which was forwarded to council and posted on the website.
I read that.
And because this one only has 1 candidate, you can go with a direct motion.
Okay. Someone care to craft a motion?
I move that Dorian Farrow be appointed to the Cannon Beach City Budget Committee.
Second.
All right, roll call?
Counselor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy,
Yes.
Council President Bennett,
Yes.
Counselor Risley.
Yes.
Okay, we have two applicants for the Design Review Board. We have an applicant, Jay Orloff and Anita Duber.
So Anita was unable to make it, but she sent a letter earlier this morning and Jay is available on Zoom.
Okay. Jay, do you have something you'd wish to say?
Yes, I appreciate the opportunity to apply for this position. I am currently employed by Tolvan Architects here in Cannon Beach, which will soon be, I will be taking over in the next 3 months as sole ownership. For the past 12 years, I've been an observer to the Cannon Beach Design Review Committee, and I would like to move my station to be actually a participant in it. I work with the community and the design and construction of structures and houses, residential and commercial, and feel that this is something that I would like to be part of. So I appreciate your time and taking my consideration.
All right, thank you, Jay.
Okay, so for this one, we'll do a roll call vote. And when I call your name, you would vote for either Jay or Anita.
I have a question for Jay, if you don't mind. Jay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
My question is, how can you assure that you will not have any conflicts of interest or actual conflicts in applications before the Design Review Board in your role as a predominant architect in Cannon Beach?
I would immediately recluse myself from that meeting and review at that time.
Have you considered the fact that you may be recusing yourself a large majority of the time?
We do a considerable amount of work in Cannon Beach. Most of the time they're for ADUs. My commercial, which would fall into probably the majority of design review, we do not do a whole lot of commercial here. We've only done a couple, so I don't think it would be as large of an impact as you might think.
I may have similar questions on the next position as well, but thank you.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
Council McCarthy,
Anita Duber.
Council President Benefield,
Anita Duber,
Councilor Risley,
Anita Duber.
Councilor Ogilvie.
Anita Duber.
Okay, so now we would need a motion.
I move to appoint Anita Duber to the Design Review Board.
You get a second?
Oh, second, sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, Councilor Risley,
Yes.
Councilor Ogilvie,
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy,
Yes.
Council President Benefield.
yes.
All right, and then we have a planning commission applicant. It is again Jay Orloff. And did you have a question, Mike?
Yes, my questions are the same, but I think it's even more relevant in this capacity because, as Jay indicated, most of their work is in residential, and most all of our appeals to the council and certainly approvals, variances, all have to go through the planning commission. And here's a place where I think that there'd be real conflict of interest.
Mike, well, I understand that your concern is in conflict of interest, but as a part of this community working to develop and maintain the standards of the municipal codes, I feel that I'm in a unique position as an aspiring architect designer to help assist in the decisions. I am familiar with the municipal code. I'm familiar with the vernacular and design standards of Cannon Beach and would like to be part of this. If I am to be, my position be negated because of my career, I don't understand that, because I would think that you want somebody from the architectural community to be part of planning and design review. But again, if it does come into conflict of interest for a particular project that would be in front of you, I would have to recluse myself because I would be presenting to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One question I have.
Yes, absolutely, Rob.
The position that will be filled is Charles Bennett's position, correct? When does that expire or come due?
December 31st.
Pardon?
So he expires December 31st, so this position would not start until January 1st.
I'm recommending that we wait to make a decision.
Okay,
I could go along with that.
all right. Mike, how do you feel about that?
Wait a minute here. Yeah, I think it's wise to do, especially when there's only one candidate. It's always bothered me when we just have one candidate. And I'm always in favor of giving others a chance to hear about it and actually give some thought to it and then apply for these positions. I think too often we've had a, one candidate, and we were just so thrilled to have anybody apply that we jumped right on it. Not always the wisest move. So I'm in favor of holding off for another month or so.
Okay, I'm hearing a plurality, like to hold the nominations over for a month. Is that our?
Or until we get another applicant.
Yes.
We have to vote on that, or is this?
Ashley, does that need a vote?
You're muted, Ashley.
Would.
Okay.
I move to postpone a decision on filling the planning commission position until November's meeting. City council meeting.
Second.
Roll call, please, Jennifer.
So just to double check, if we still only have the one applicant, do you still want to hear it in November, or do you want to wait until we have more applicants?
Until we have more applicants.
So you want, I'll amend the motion.
Yes, please. Yeah.
And I agree to the amendment.
Okay.
Oh,
Councilor Ogilvy,
yes.
Councilor McCarthy,
Yes.
Councilor Bennett,
Yes.
Councilor Risley.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone out there would like to join the planning commission? I've served 2 terms on it. Very exciting.
It can be.
All right, we'll
A
move on
lot
to the
more
next.
exciting now than it was when I was on it for 40 years.
All right, Bruce, our next agenda item is consideration for authorizing an additional day off as a holiday over New Year's weekend.
Thank you, sir. For the past several years, council has authorized a day off around Christmas or New Year's to provide an opportunity for staff to have 2 4-day weekends at the end of a busy year. Police staffing will remain as usual during that time, with the chief adjusting schedules to make sure everyone gets a day or is compensated. Public Works staff will be off, but will be operating under the usual emergency procedures. The way the calendar falls this year is that New Year's weekend is already a 4-day weekend. To do the same for Christmas weekend of 2022, it would be necessary for the council to approve December 30th, Friday, for the SEIU. And I need Jennifer to explain this to me again someday, but in December 31st, which is Saturday for the Guild, because the way that the schedules go, doesn't work on the same day. When this was approved in the past by council, the employees were most appreciative. And if this is approved, staff will make the appropriate notifications to both the Guild and the SEIU.
This is just for this year then, Bruce?
Yes.
Okay. All right, somebody have a motion?
I move to approve the one-time granting of December 30th for SEIU and December 31st for Guild as a city holiday, as a gesture of support and thanks to city staff.
Second.
Great. Roll call, please, Jennifer.
Council President Benefield,
Yes.
Council Risley,
Yes.
Councilor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce. Right, the monthly status report?
I had a question on that, on the planning list. It says the CD staff prepared the LUBA record for the Hamid appeal, which piece is that?
Family appeal, there's a property down about the middle of the city. Is it first where Sam's business is?
Mhm.
Going back there, okay, it's almost sort of straight out to the end of the road along Ocean. And that was the one that the construction was pretty far along. And it was discovered that the surveyor had used a wrong point to determine what the ocean setback was. And so there was a stop work order issued. And anyway, we went through our process and it was not, their appeal was not approved at our level. So they're taking it to LUBA.
Okay. All right, because it wasn't something that came before the council, so I wasn't.
And they did the stop order in January or February. Is that right?
I don't believe so. It was relatively recent because the first appeal was to me. So, Jen, do you recall when that was, maybe 3 months ago?
It seems like a long time.
I think it was around July, June, July.
Yeah.
I'll have to.
Okay, because they've done a foundation, correct?
Yes, and they did part of the front wall, the front being along the Pacific.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
The frames at least were in place. But the surveyor used a point on a deck so that the point to the north was set as far as how far the neighbor had gone forward. And then the house 2 doors down, I think, was like here, but they had a standalone deck not connected to the house, which does not
count.
It's not part of a structure, but they used that point. So that gave them a real advantage to be able to move out. And work had been done. But when we saw that, it would be the work had to stop. And that was the only conclusion we could come to, because if you went back to the house proper, it was a very different calculation.
Thank you. I've had tons of people ask me about that. So
Yeah.
it's good to know.
And we did talk to them. It was a unique case. We did talk to them about an agreement of some kind, because now we're going to LUBA. I'm sorry, they're taking it to LUBA. They're going to spend a bunch of money. We're defending ourselves at LUBA, so we're going to have to spend a bunch of money. And because the family didn't do anything wrong, we actually talked to them and said, are you willing to do an agreement, and we'll give you our portion, you use your portion, it's going to be about what it's going to cost you to fix your problem. So it wasn't that we had done anything wrong, but it just didn't make sense for everybody to spend that kind of money when there was a problem to be solved. And they chose not to take that path.
Right, anything to add to this?
I had a question about the cow system. It was taken offline because there was a maintenance issue and water damage. Is that fixed now?
Yeah, I don't know if cows is fixed, but there was a leak in a restroom upstairs, and right underneath it was all communication equipment.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and so there was a lot of things that needed to be taken care of, and the cows was one that went offline. Jason, do you know if it's back online yet?
I have not heard.
Yeah. So that's what's going on there.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Right, there's no communications from the mayor at this point. Next month. Councilor communications?
I have a question, but I don't think this is, I think it's point of order is when I have to ask it.
All right, we have go to the order next.
The order, rather. Are we there yet?
We are now.
Okay. I've been getting some interesting comments. Lance, the guy at the recycling depot, the town is complaining about his receiving bottles and cans, and can you give me some background on that?
Sure. There was an individual brought it to our attention, and they were concerned that because the individual, but Lance, was taking cans that were meant for recycling that would have brought money to the city, or whatever, for the effort. And the way that our and this has been going on for a long time. In addition to taking cans, the individual also would help inside the fence. Like when somebody dumped a whole bunch of junk and it fell over the side for leaves and that, he would work to go ahead and throw them back in. But he wasn't an employee or an official volunteer. We have been lucky that we aren't getting a lot of people coming in to try to take glass and bottles. We have somebody that's there and is doing that efficiently. And so, staff was concerned about making a change, but the bottom line that we were facing was that it's illegal to take recyclables from the recycling center. And he was taking some from the recycling center. And so we couldn't, that's one, that we couldn't work around. And so we talked to him, he understands the situation. And there are people that are very supportive of him, and they are making changes to go ahead and be able to continue to support him. For example, the restaurants are, they give him the cans, and but if he takes them from inside, then we got a problem. So there's discussion now about having another place for them to put the cans, or him to come and get them. And he is allowed, because some people will come to the fence, and before they go in, they have Lance take things out of their car, and he'll be able to continue to do that. So we had to make a change, but we're trying to accommodate, because that individual has helped us in the past, and it was a good relationship, except it was going inside was illegal. So, but he can also stay stationed outside.
Well, in other words, you can give Lance directly, your cans and your bottles.
Yes.
Just want him to have it. That's how you do it.
Yes.
Because once they go into the recycling center and into the bin, where you put glass, he's not allowed to pick them up because is it a state law that
I think
illegal?
it's a state law and you can't come in the gate,
Okay,
past the gate.
all right.
Jason, state law.
Ashley, yes.
I'm sorry, Ashley?
I'm not aware of that law, so it could be, but it's not something I'm familiar with.
Yeah. Jason found it for us.
I think it falls under each city. The state law is that it's on private or public property, and if it is public property, the city has the right to make that decision on whether or not they allow people to do it. I think the problem in there lies is you allow one person to do it, you allow everybody, but that's where you come into consideration of everybody going in, not to mention liability of somebody if they hurt themselves or whatever equipment they're using in there.
But if people want to give him their cans and bottles, they're free to do so
Yeah, right there at the gate.
at the gate. Okay.
And Bruce, just because Nancy seemed to brought it up, the city in no way goes through the cans and bottles to sort out returnables.
No, we don't. They're handled separately by Recology. And that's how it's done.
And we don't get revenue from those, do we?
No.
Because I think that was a complaint that I had heard many months ago from somebody who said he was very concerned about this situation because he thought that that Lance basically was taking money away from the city.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. No, I talked to Karen about that at that time and didn't seem to be the case. So, yeah, okay.
Thank you for the clarification. Now,
Yeah, I've been hearing about it lately and several times. So,
Yeah, I think we talked to him probably last week. That's why people are hearing about it now.
All right, anything else for good of the order?
not for me.
Councilor Benefield, I do. So City Attorney Ashley Driscoll, I want to just bring to the council's attention the fact that I'm going to bring forward the city manager evaluation for 2022 at our at our work session next week. So if you're thinking to yourself, didn't we just go through this process? The answer is yes, but it's because in years past, we have prioritized other matters ahead of the city manager evaluation. The last couple of years, the end of the fourth quarter of the year, the end of the year has been very busy. And so I've talked to Bruce about it. We've usually pushed it back to spring. Sometimes spring becomes summer. So this year, there is a potential for a substantial changeover in the city council. The city manager evaluation should be those individuals who oversaw the city manager during the year. So I think it makes sense this year to actually conduct city manager evaluation on time. So with council's approval, I'm going to bring start the evaluation next council meeting. There are a couple things that I want to bring to the council's attention. This will be, I think, the fourth city manager evaluation that I've conducted with the city council. And each time we tried to improve and make the process a little better. The last couple of years, I definitely feel like by the end of the evaluation, we are covering some of the same territory. And so I'm going to present next week a pared down version of the criteria. So some of the criteria are repetitive and involve things that the city council may not actually have knowledge of. For example, how employee evaluations are complete and whether, employee disciplinary matters, items that don't necessarily make it to the council's attention. So I'm going to propose that we pare down some of that criteria in order to focus on the things that we have been talking about for the last couple of years. Of course, that's just going to be my recommendation and open for council discussion about what you would like your criteria to be. And then timeline wise, we are in October. So if we go forward with this timeline, we would start next week with adopting the criteria and adopting the process. Then we would meet, then we would have Bruce do a self-evaluation based on the criteria we have agreed on, move on to a meeting in executive session with the council to review the criteria. I imagine that would happen at a standalone executive session sometime at the end of October, beginning of November. Then we'd have the meeting with the city council and Bruce sometime, probably November, and then the first meeting in December, the first meeting in December, we would meet with Bruce and then do an executive session an open meeting to approve the evaluation and consider any potential merit increases for 2022. So just a heads up, I will email out my suggested criteria. It's going to come out with the packet from Jen. Feel free to provide me directly any feedback before next week. And that's all I have.
Right. Thank you, Ashley.
I do have one other question. A couple of months ago, I think it was a good of the order discussion. We had a suggestion that maybe we should have a retreat once the new city councilors are elected and the new mayor is elected, that all of us get together to have a retreat to discuss issues and, the new year. So we were talking about having that before we have our usual council retreat.
Yes. And so we're looking to do that November, December. I'll bring dates to you or ask you for dates. I'll try next week at the work session. And then what we talked about is there would be a joint meeting, kind of a handoff. And then, but the new council would have a separate retreat among themselves, maybe January, maybe February or something like that. We want to give them a little bit of time in the seat.
Okay.
So there will be two, but the one with you kind of get a handoff.
Okay.
And we have an ethics training too, with Ashley
Yes,
coming up.
that's in October, isn't it, Ashley?
October 20th.
Yeah.
October 20th, and it's going to be a joint meeting with me and Carrie Richter from Bill Kabizman's office.
And is that, I was going to ask Jennifer, the council is attending that as well?
It will be offered.
Okay,
I don't know if they have to.
It's going to everybody,
okay. So council as well.
council as well.
And the candidates are where we had a discussion about the agenda for tonight yesterday. And we talked about if any of them wanted to attend because it's before the election.
Good idea.
You know, Nancy?
I think that's it for tonight.
All right. If there's nothing else, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Good night.
Night.
Good job.
Get well, Mike,
Yes,
Definitely.
please.
Yeah.
Stacy and Will and everybody else up
The
there.
whole gang is sick, so
Yeah.
we're working on it,
I'm training
So the dog is taking care of you, is that right?
pretty much. That's not a way to take a vacation.
But then Mike.
Need the dogs to be a super.
All right, good night, guys.